All right, guys, Urban Sentinel here. I'm just going to do a relatively short rundown, top five, as it were, of possible scenarios that could be unfolding in the next few weeks to months. So we start with number one. Russia either completely occupies or retains a large section of control of Ukraine. Basically, the areas that they're in, the piece of the pie that they've cut out, they hang on to, and they double up their fortifications, bring in their reinforcements, and effectively defend those positions both from the Russian side and from the side of Belarus. They could possibly also move into another region. I believe that it's a smaller country nearby, Moldova, an area. I'm not sure if they're friendly with them or if it's one of those kind of 50-50 things, but effectively speaking, Russia retains either complete control or a good majority control of the Ukraine, keeping NATO and the US by default focused on that, leading to scenario number two. China, which hasn't been saying much, hasn't been doing much, we know that they've had multiple plans to take over Taiwan. It's not something that they just thought of doing over the last few years. This has been going on for decades. One of those plan options could be, should NATO and its primary ally, the United States, be occupied with another superpower, Russia, then they could enact their plans knowing that the U.S. is going to be splitting the difference of its attention and its resources between focusing on Russia and focusing on China. It's not to say that we can't do it, but everyone knows when you fight a two-front war on any level, you are going to be strained far more than your opponents, even if your opponents aren't specifically working together. With that being said, China could make moves to go in and occupy and take over Taiwan, knowing that it will face resistance, knowing that we will still have U.S. forces in those areas that are ready to defend it. But once again, we've already started our focus on Russia, and we're still not sure where that's going to go. Could lead to scenario number three, cyber attacks, which they have been going on and we've had them before, but now it would be too easy to say, well, any cyber attacks are going to be from Russia or going to be from China, and it very well may be. It could be very well be state sponsored, or it could be independent, effectively contractors. But when we start tracing and tracking things to find out that, okay, some of these attacks are coming from Europe, some are coming from Asia, some are in Africa, some are in South and Central America, some are here domestically in the United States. They don't have to take off big chunks. They have to take small little bites, like piranha. One piranha by itself is not going to take down a hippopotamus, but 100 piranha, each one of them nibbling away, that's when you have the problems, and that's what we could end up seeing. It might be a case of something almost innocuous, like the card readers at every single retailer that are hooked into a network. Those stop functioning. Maybe logistics companies that actually track the shipping and arrival and departures of products for major retailers, their systems get corrupted, so that has to shut down. Smaller financial institutions, not necessarily the big banks and the big boys on Wall Street, but a lot of the smaller ones that all are linked together, that form the ring around those major networks when it comes to low-end financial transactions. Maybe their systems get corrupted, so they're not sure what money belongs to who and how much is there. All of those small little attacks will be hitting one after the other, but each time a fire starts up, you can only keep your attention on one or two things at a time. There's always going to be something that pops up and gets through, which then at that point could lead to a situation where, in scenario number four, we have to shut everything down. They had to do it with the denial of service for, I believe, the Colonial Pipeline. They couldn't get access to their system because of the denial of service, but they also had to shut everything down on their end to ensure that any malware or any penetrating software didn't go farther into the system or branch out into other network systems. If you have to do that on a nationwide basis, if you have power companies, you have transportation companies, you have retail companies, you have medical facilities and hospitals, if they all have to basically disconnect from their networks, disconnect from the information that's out there, that's going to cause as much, if not more damage than if you just simply blew the facility up, which then goes to possibly scenario number five. And again, this is all speculation stuff just running through my head. If you have all these little fires, all these little attacks, all these little bites going on, spreading out over the next few weeks, few months, that's going to deplete a lot of resources. Now, at that point, too, you could say that, well, we'll be on heightened alert. We're going to be looking for it. We're going to be more aware of it. True. But we're also going to be a little bit more fearful because we don't know what the next bite is going to be. Is it going to be another small bite, or is it going to be a large chunk that takes a big piece of meat out of you? Should one of the other superpowers, which again, we don't know, we're not sure where this is going to go, detonate an EMP, whether it be directly overhead in space, sitting up geosynced above Kansas, 250 miles up to black out most of the continental mainland, parts of Canada, Mexico, or whether it's going to be terrorist enacted dirty bombs that are sitting on shipping containers, sitting on trains somewhere around major cities. A little bit of radiation can go a long, long way when it comes to shutting shit down. And that could be one of those key things that once that occurs, it's not necessary to say that it's lights out and party's over, but it is to say that at that point, if you got to that potential scenario number 5, things at that end are going to be dire for us or for any other country that's affected by it. And that by itself is going to have some major catastrophic ripples. Each one of the scenarios by itself is manageable, but when they are starting to get stacked up and paired and linked up one on top of the other, that whole daisy chain effect is really where the issue comes down. And like I said before, this is just my thoughts, my speculation on things. For all we know, that by the time I post this up, there could have been breaking news that Russia has said, hey, our bad, sorry about that, and they turned around and they headed back home. I don't know. This whole thing could be resolved in a week or two, and this just becomes an anecdotal video that people go onto YouTube and go, hey, remember when that guy thought all these things were going to happen? If that's the case, then that's the case. And I've got no problems with that. But all I'm saying is the potential for certain things at this point with everything that is presently going on. And I haven't even gone into our current economy, our current health status, none of that stuff. I'm not going to pile all that stuff on. I'm just going through top 5 scenarios of what could happen. Not necessarily saying that they'll all happen. And it's not to say that each one requires one of the others. It's just I see it as a potential offshoot that you get one scenario and that could shoot off to the second scenario, which could lead to the next one and to the next one. Anyway, that's it for now. You guys take it easy.